Good afternoon, and welcome to another ironic introduction to another video. I want to give a shout out to Omkar's music. It might be Omkar. I apologize. I don't get the phonetic when I read the lettering, but you asked me to make a guide on how to run multiple arenas at once. I understand that juggling and maximizing points across these arenas can be very difficult, especially if you have like a time deficiency, which I will be running into sooner or later. So you really want to determine like how can you grind these arenas and make sure you're maximizing your rewards. This will be a longer guide, so I do apologize. I will try to make everything as clear and understandable as possible going forward. But unfortunately, I started doing this and it does take a long time. So bear with me. I'll try to keep it as simple and straightforward as possible, just so that it is quicker as a result. So the first things first, timestamp number one is the 40% day one rule. So when you're grinding out a champion, what you want to do is you should already have a general idea of how strong your roster is. So like, trust me, you'll know if you can compete for a 4-star featured. Like, you're either putting up 6 to 7 million points in the arena every 3 days, or you're not. And if you're not, then you know that you can't go for this champion. If you have a solid roster of like 15 to 30 4-stars ranked up to like at least rank 3, as well as you have like 6 plus 5-stars, you could feasibly go for a 4-star featured. It might cost you some units, it might cost you a lot of time, but it is possible, because that's roughly where I'm doing it. I'm doing it at 9 5-star champions and a lot of 4-star champions. But for the most part, if you're like testing your waters and trying to figure out where your mark-offs are, you can dump your points into the 4-star basic to try and give yourself the best start off. And then if you find out you can go compete in futures, you can do that later. So when I say 40% rule, what I mean is day one, what you're going to do is you're going to build up your streak in the arena of your choice, starting from the get-go, and then you're going to build up your streak to 3. You're going to grind your points going top down from there, and then when you drop your streak, you're going to rebuild up the streak and dump all your points into there as well. A alternative idea is to build up your streak in multiple arenas all at once, so that you can see how I've done. And then when you start your arena grind, you can go top down, and every time you drop your streak, you can just jump to another arena and continue going top down. This way all your rotations will be in line, and then you can just rebuild your streaks up at the end of the arena grind, and then of your rotation, and then start all over again on the next rotation. I personally like that strategy, but it's not always efficient. It's just an option. But for day one, set up all your points in 1 to 2 arenas. So I'm going to make the assumption that you can put points into the 4-star featured and the 4-star basic, and you're prioritizing the basic. So day one, 40% of your points. So you've gone to sleep, you wake up, this is 40% of your points. Add up these 2 arenas and multiply it by 2.5. This is the amount of points you can feasibly get in a 3-day arena grind. And this is under the assumption that on day one, you went as hard as you possibly could. Sacrifice a little bit of sleep, stay up late for that extra rotation, grind on your lunch break, really just push the envelope there and see how much you can get on day one. Because when you do it on a 40% assumption, you are saying, well, if I run into a life issue, or I fall asleep, or I miss a rotation, you've already accommodated 10% of your 3-day grind to that day one grind, kind of going, front loading your work. So in order to determine the maximum amount of points you can feasibly get, just take the sum of these 2 point milestones here and multiply it by 2.5. If you have questions or aren't able to do that math, feel free to just post like a screenshot of here and ask me to do it for you. I would be happy to do so, but hopefully that equation isn't very difficult and you're able to handle it yourself. And so with that in mind, let's say you've dumped day one, you put 1.5 million points in on the 4-star basic Darkhawk, and you put 500,000 points on Medusa, and so you have a total of 2 million points. Using the 40% rule, that would be a total of 5 million points that you can grind in the arena. So at 5 million points, you could go for Darkhawk here, or you could feasibly use units / use arena boosters to push for the 4-star featured Medusa. Now, I generally say don't rely on arena boosters and don't rely on units unless it's a champion you like absolutely want. So you would take that 5 million points and you would distribute 3 million to Darkhawk, pump in a 1 million points into the 5-star featured, right? And then dump your last 1 million points into the 4-star featured, and that's how you would distribute the points there. Alternatively, let's say you want the champion and you care a little less about the milestones and the efficiency of the ranked rewards because maybe you really want Dark Hawk or you really want that basic champion. You could dump 3 million points into Dark Hawk here and take the other 2 million points and dump them into this Catalyst Clash basic arena. This does take a lot of priority just as an upgrade material, and that's really how you distribute the points there. So this is the second timestamp. So here I will be talking about where you should prep your champions. So when you're grinding multiple arenas, you really have to think about your champion pool. So over here, I'm going to jump over. Hold on. And the big part here is you want to at least level 10, rank 1 max level all your champions. You want all of your champions that you're going to feasibly use at least max level so you can get some points out of them. You can get those easier fights out of them. And you don't have to do all of them, but you'll get a feel for if you can do a full rotation. Like if you can do all of your 4 stars comfortably in a rotation, then all of your 4 stars should be leveled up. But if you're finding, okay, I'm only doing half my 4 stars, well then only level up half your 4 stars, you know, and then prioritize the ones that push faster. Glass cannons like Iron Fist, who might not be good for questing, but are amazing for arena. Or Storm, who is amazing for arena because you use your special and it ends the fight. Maybe don't optimize champions like Proxima Midnight, who have a lot of ramp up, because that's not ideal. But what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to think about your rotations. So all your 5 stars are going to be lumped together, and then you're gonna, if you are like at an odd number, so like let's say you have 7 5-star champions, right? What you would want to do is a set of 3, and then 2 sets of 2 and a sandbag and 2 and a sandbag. Or let's say you have 8, in which case you could do 3 3 2. But either way, you either want to set your 5 stars up in sets of 3 or sets of 2. The only time you wouldn't be able to do this is if you have 1 5-star, in which case you really just got to struggle and just get the points there as it is. But hopefully you pass that point fairly quickly, because that's really the only time you won't be able to do 3s and 2s as far as 5 stars are concerned. And when you do your 5 stars, ideally you want the point scales to match. You can see my top 3 here, those are all rank 3, and then my next 3 here they're roughly in the 3600s, and then Colossus, Iron Patriots, Hulk Puctor, those are 3000s. That's not something you can set up, but it is something you should keep in mind, because for example, let's say I had Mordo at rank 2. When I bring that Mordo Karnak Night Thrasher into a fight, it's going to make it a little bit harder in the arena. So an alternative option here for me would actually be to take Mordo Iron Patriot, right? Pair them up that way across, and then sandbag it intentionally so that I know that Iron Patriot isn't going to be destroyed by having a higher PI Mordo. And next up, you want to rank up these champions as much as possible. And the general rule of thumb is you want 15 champions here. I actually make the argument that you can do 10, because if you do 10, you can do the sandbagging strategy. Now, that's not optimal. You want to work your way up to 15, but you want 10 to 15 champions ranked up on the higher spectrum, and then from there it's just a matter of getting everybody to rank 2 and slowly progressing as many champions to rank 2 as possible. And again, the more time efficient you're being, the more you optimize on rank 3s. But first things first is get 15 champions to rank 2 outside of your questing party and progress from there. And when you're grinding multiple arenas, you actually want to do this at all versions of the stars of ranks, right? So you can see here that I have many ranked up 3 stars, and if I scroll all the way down, or not, if I scroll all the way down to the 2 stars, you can see that I'm doing that for my 2 stars as well. And that's a big part of pushing the arenas. And again, this actually differs on the arenas. So for the Summoner Trials, you only need rank 2 stars here in order to push an infinite streak. So you actually don't have to max rank any 2 stars, and you can do that fairly comfortably. It is a little bit harder on the fights. Sometimes you'll drop your streak, but for the most part, rank 2s is sufficient there. So once you get your stack of like 15 rank 2 stars in the Summoner Trials, you can leave it like that. If you are doing your rotations and over the course of 3 days you're not hitting that last milestone, rank up 3 more at a time. The biggest thing is rank up 3 at a time, particularly in the 2-star and the 3-star categories where it's possible. If you don't have the materials to rank up 3 at a time, invest your materials in your higher champions. You'll get more points in the long run that way. Same thing for the 3 stars, except in the 3 stars, this one you can push an infinite streak with a rank 2, and I actually do for the most part. But I would advise having like 18 to 21 here, just because with the 3-star arena boosts, if you're having a bad like a 3-day period, or you're pushing a champion like I am, those arena boosts allow you to hit this milestone much quicker, and you're going to want to have a larger pool of champions to boost so that you don't have to use units to refresh them, and you can hammer out those less rotations with the same amount of champions. And if ideally you would actually rank 3 of them just to make the fights consistently more easy, but again, that's another one where you can set the arena infinite streak up with just rank 2s. As a 4-star basic, keep in mind that once you can actually use your 3-star champions in here. Ideally, they'd be rank 3. And at rank 3, you can see these 3 stars I have actually outclass some of my rank 1 4 stars, and I do use them in here. And the nice thing about that is the amount of arena boosts you get for 3 stars is significantly higher than the amount of arena boosts you get for 4 stars. So if you're actually struggling to push arena points in the basic, one alternative strategy is to just rank 3 many 3 stars and then wait till you have a good stockpile of arena boosts up, and then hammer them all out on one champion to get like a specific 4-star that you're looking for. Again, it's not optimal in the long run, but it is a nice mechanic you can use in the short term. So the most important thing here is that you have to think about time versus point efficiency. So my guide here is based on the assumption, I'll put another timestamp here, I'm sorry. My guide here is based on the assumption that you have plenty of time. And when you have plenty of time, what you want to do is on these higher arenas, you want to push death streaks. And the reason I do that is because you can see here, I only have a limited number of 5 stars. I only have a very limited number of ranked up 4 stars. And so it's about getting as many points as possible. And so you want to become a good enough player that you can push a death streak with a, rank 2 Iron Fist and win that fight. Because when you can win a rank 2 Iron Fist on a death streak, you're getting the same amount of points as you get on like a max rank 3-star or a max rank 4-star, and you're still within that 2-hour window regardless, so it's not like you would be doing anything with that time. But let's say you can't go for point efficiency, you burn out after grinding arena for 40 minutes at a time. And then you want to go for time efficiency, in which case you want to work on setting up an infinite streak as long as possible. But let's say you don't have the champions to set up an infinite streak. Well, then what you're going to want to do is something called an intentional loss. So what you'll do is you'll set up your streak, right? You'll run all your lower champions up and you'll set up your infinite streak. You'll go up to your top and you'll run all your higher ranked champions, right? And then when you get to the end of your ranked champions, or let's say roughly 5 to 10 minutes before you feel like, okay, I need to put this down, what you're going to do is you're going to go back down to lower ranked champions and you're going to set up a team of 3 and you're just going to hit menu quit, menu quit, menu quit, right? And then you're going to reset up your streak. And now you're going to go click on your higher ranked champion, click on when they come up available, set a clock on your phone, and log back in when that's ready. And that is a way to maximize time, but not point efficiency. The death streak or the infinite streak kind of does both. The infinite streak does both, and the pushing death squads, when you can really hammer out like win streaks of 17 or 18, you get so many points that way. And that's how I push these milestones with the rosters I have, is just pushing death streaks to 17, 18 win streaks, because you just get so many points. Whew. Finally, I have 2 more points. So a timestamp here is prepping one arena for your 5 stars. So 4 stars and 3 stars and 2 stars, they all have a 2-hour timer, and that's very convenient. But the 5-star champions have a 7-hour timer, and you want to make sure you get the most points out of those, because it is both point efficient and time efficient on your 5 stars. So the way it works is on your 3rd rotation of 4 stars, you have an option. You could either intentionally wait an extra hour to log in, use that time to rest up, take a nap, eat dinner, or at the end of your rotation, you could intentionally set up one arena for your 5 stars, or both if you're nervous about how many 5 stars you have and whether or not you can win all your fights. But I'm going to make the assumption you're only setting up one. It just happened to work out that I was able to set up 2 here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into that arena, and no matter what streak it is, you're going to pick whichever arena those points are the most meaningful for you, and you're going to go in, do a intentional loss of 3, set up a streak of 3 times multiplier, and now you can bring your 5 stars in here. And this is actually more efficient than using those 5 stars in an infinite streak, because these fights are relatively easy, still a little on the harder side, but relatively easy and winnable. You should win them all. and you get more points than you would if you were running an infinite streak because you will be facing opponents of a slightly higher hero rating. And in this way, you get the most out of your 5 stars. It's the least amount of fights, and the fights should be relatively easy to win. And if they're not, then it's just a matter of practice with those champions, because sometimes you have meme 5 stars like Colossus, and you really just got to understand what you got to do with that champion in order to win the fight. And then finally, I just want to pick like a quick tip on realistic numbers. The 40% rule is a kind of sub-thought of realistic numbers. You don't want to set an expectation for yourself that is unobtainable or optimistic. This is a situation where I would err towards realistic / pessimistic, because there is life issues, circumstances where it will push you to drive less points. So really use that first day to set the bar high, and don't use that to estimate how many times you can get in the 3-day thing. Use that to estimate how many you could get, over the course of a day and a half, etc. The 40% rule. And this will keep you from being disappointed or burning out, right? Because what it does give you that extra time window. So that said, this video has gone on longer than it needs to, and I will talk to you later.